Let's talk about the keystone species of bacteria that we find in the gut. These are really important in terms of maintaining the overall health of the gut. So when it comes to gut health, it's about balance. So if we always take the same probiotic because we heard that is good, because we heard that it's got very high CFUs, we are not encouraging balance. So what happens with these keystone species, they are there in small numbers, but they've got important functions. One of these keystone species is something called Akkermansia muciniphila. So it's a very important bacteria, and it also doesn't have to be in very high levels. It has to be in balance. So in other words, the ratio between these keystone species and other bacteria, has to be correct, because too little Akkermansia is not good. Too high Akkermansia is not good. So what does Akkermansia do? How does it help the health of the gut? It does so by improving the gut barrier. So we all know about the lining of the gut. We know that there's something called leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So one of the jobs of Akkermansia is to keep the lining of the gut intact, and it also lowers inflammation. It produces these things that are called postbiotics. Okay, so these are chemicals that when this Akkermansia produces these short chain fatty acids, other bacteria will use it. And it has also been found that people that have got low levels of Akkermansia have got metabolic issues. So these are the people that become obese, and also they can get type 2 diabetes. And also Akkermansia is involved in immune tolerance. As you know by now that there is a crosstalk between your gut bacteria and your immune system. So if you've got the right levels of Akkermansia, you've got immune tolerance. So, and also what happens is that when you don't have enough levels of these hormones, enough levels of the bacteria, there are certain hormones that are affected. For example, the GLP-1, and most people will know about Ozempic, and we produce our own GLP-1 in the gut, and that also depends on the balance and the levels of these keystone bacteria. And too high levels of Akkermansia is also not good. Is associated with autoimmunity. So diseases like MS, lupus, ALS, and this is because when you've got too high levels of Akkermansia, you produce leaky gut, because what happens is Akkermansia does eat the mucin, the mucus on the lining of the gut. And when that happens, there are cells in the lining of the gut that are called goblet cells. And what these do is that they produce more mucus. So on one hand, Akkermansia is eating the mucus. On the other hand, these goblet cells are making mucus. And again, the balance comes in because these goblet cells, for them to be able to produce enough mucus, they also need nutrients. So you find that somebody that has got very low levels of stomach acid, they are not absorbing enough vitamin A, they are not absorbing enough zinc. All those things are involved in the health of these goblet cells. So the question is, how do you increase? Let's say you've got low levels of Akkermansia. Okay, maybe just from your symptoms, you know that you exercise well, you sleep well, but you still find that you can't lose weight. Most likely is that the problem is that you've got low levels of Akkermansia. So there's certain things that you can do to improve the levels. One of them is fasting, but we're talking about short-term fasting, not fasting for days and days, and that improves actually the amount of mucus in the lining of the gut. And as we've spoken about, Akkermansia does love the mucus. And also another thing that you can do is think of increasing fiber. for example, resistant starch. So don't always think of something that you need to buy from the shop. If you cook potatoes, sweet potatoes or normal potatoes, and you leave them to cool down, they become resistant starch, and they are a prebiotic which will feed your Akkermansia. So polyphenol compounds that we get in things like all these colorful vegetables and fruits, things like cranberries, pomegranate, all those colorful substances, they feed Akkermansia. So if you want to have a healthy gut, think like, how do I support my gut so that I can have enough levels of these keystone bacteria? And it's not always about you need a lot or a very high level. It's about balance, and the only way you can achieve balance is if you do things that encourage the proliferation of these bacteria, and at the same time you are avoiding things that will break down these bacteria. And what are those things? Overuse of pharmaceutical drugs like antibiotics, proton pump inhibitors. Another example is contraceptive pill, painkillers. So all those things will impact the levels of these keystone species. If you found this information interesting and helpful, please like this video, subscribe so that you don't miss any gut-wise tips.